I know self-publishing's not for everyone. Nothing is. But if you've considered self-publishing for even a minute, listen up, because I'm betting I know what's holding you back from exploring it further or getting started. Number one, you think the self-publishing process is a lot harder than it actually is. And number two, you're understandably afraid of doing it, air quote, wrong. So I've created a new free resource for you. It's called the Self-Publishing Starter Kit, and you can get instant access to it by clicking the link in the show notes or visiting publishaprofitablebook.com/self-publishing 101. In this free training, you'll discover the exact 4 steps to focus on and mistakes to avoid so you can publish an incredible book that's indistinguishable in quality from a New York Times bestseller without overthinking, overguessing, or overspending in areas that won't make a difference. Again, visit publishaprofitablebook.com/self-publishing 101 to get instant access. Welcome to the Write the Damn Book Already podcast. My name is Elizabeth Lyons. I'm a 6-time author and book editor, and I help people write and publish powerful, thought-provoking, wildly entertaining books without any more overthinking, second-guessing, or overwhelm than absolutely necessary. Because let's face it, some overthinking, second-guessing, and overwhelm is going to come with the territory if you're anything like me. I believe that story and shared perspective are 2 of the most potent ways we connect with one another, and that your story, perspective, and insights are destined to become someone else's favorite resource or pastime. For more book writing and publishing tips and solutions, and plenty of free and low-cost resources, visit publishaprofitablebook.com. And for recommendations of fabulous books you've possibly never heard of, book writing inspiration, and the occasional meme so relatable you'll wonder if it was created with you in mind, follow me on Instagram at Elizabeth Lyons Author. Well, hi, everybody, and happy day. I have not gotten the opportunity, I hope I get it many more times, but to have an author on a second time. Because one, thank you for being willing to talk to me again. It gives me some personal validation that maybe they're not like, never going on that show again. And also, I love to hear about the different experiences from book to book, specifically when I get to speak with an author about their debut and then what's sometimes referred to as their sophomore novel. Donna Norman-Carbone's second novel, Of Lies and Honey, comes out today, April 23rd, 2024. It's when I'm recording this. And having spoken with her about her first novel, All That Is Sacred, which came out in June of 2023, so not even a year ago, I was really curious about what had changed with this launch. What changed with her writing process, and to ask her some of the questions that people have been asking me lately about overwhelm and procrastination that, frankly, I need some new answers to. It takes a village in this writing adventure. As usual, all of the links to everything Donna are in the show notes, including our first episode together. I know you're going to enjoy this one as much as I did. Let's get right to the conversation. I love having no, you're not my first repeat guest, but you're one of few. And I love having them because I get to ask the questions about how it's gone, how it's going, where you think it's going, where you hope it's going, all those things. So All That Is Sacred came out in June of 2023, right? Mm-hmm. And then Of Lies and Honey, which could not be a better title, comes out today, April 23rd, 2024. So yay. If everyone listening doesn't yet have a copy, today's the day. Tell me about first the second launch day versus the first.
The second launch day, I honestly feel like it's busier than the first. I think, I don't know. I don't know if it's that more people are aware of Of Lies and Honey because of All That Is Sacred, but I'm getting a lot more texts. I had to go live with all of my book links this morning on my website, which I don't think I knew to do last time. So I didn't even do that until after my launch day last time. Okay. So, yeah.
Meaning you just had to move it to your website to be live.
Yeah. So
okay.
So it was live. What I needed to do was upload all those links to my own website because I had done a newsletter before that I wanted to shoot out to everybody with links, but they needed to be live on my website.
Of course.
So that was something that I did not know to do last time. I think I did have a newsletter last time, but I'm not sure that I sent one out on the day. Don't think I was very newsletter savvy or savvy at all last time.
Welcome to the world of we're all trying to figure out newsletters.
Yeah.
Do you feel more, I can imagine it can go different ways. Do you feel more comfortable and excited with this launch than you did with the first one because that was unknown?
I definitely feel more zen. I keep returning to the metaphor of having a child. And this is like having that second child. The first one, you don't know what's coming. You can't wait. There's like that nervous anticipation for each new step. And now I'm just kind of like sitting in it and enjoying it and feeling like, no, I don't want the next step to come. So it really is like having children.
Yeah, that metaphor gets used a lot. And I think it's so fair.
Yeah.
It really resonates because the other thing, what resonates for me is you forget the pain of childbirth.
Right.
For me, I forget the pain of that morning, when because the launch day, and I think we talked about this the first time you came on, is fairly anticlimactic, at least compared to what some people maybe think it will be.
Right.
But still, it's like now it's out there. And you get to decide, am I going to look at sales numbers? Am I going to look at rate rankings? Can you tell me, what is your process for getting sales numbers? This is a concept that's being talked a lot about right now in the author community. Sometimes authors don't even want them. Sometimes authors want them and can't get them. What's your experience and perspective on that?
So I do get my sales numbers. My publisher sends them to me like the month following. Sure. So that's when I get like my hard numbers. I still feel like I haven't figured out my Amazon author page, which they have rankings on there and they say that, it's pretty like 75% accurate. But when I take a look at the timeline, it doesn't feel like that because there have been times where I know a lot of books have gone out that aren't necessarily reported on there or not reported when I check them. So I don't really check my sales too often. I check more like my ranking and my reviews. And I have even slowed that down a little bit too. I think I did it every single day with the first book. Not so much now.
Right.
Yeah.
I wonder, everyone has their own, there's no right or wrong. Everyone has their own approach to reviews, which of course can very much change depending on all kinds of things. Yeah. It's always fun to hear what different people do. So maybe it can give permission to somebody who wants to do that thing, but is like, is that the right thing to do? Is it okay if I have an author who does not want to know what her numbers are ever. Yeah. Yeah. It just would stress her out one way or the other because, and this is sort of fair, she doesn't know what she's comparing it to. Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Real, is it like a number in her head? Is it like a number that people are boasting about on social media that may or may not be true? Right. So I got some advice one time, and I think it's such good advice for authors, and that's never to compare your own journey with others. Yeah. Because I've gone down that rabbit hole where, I've looked at the amount of other people's reviews and then looked at the amount of mine and asked myself, why am I not up there? I think I'm doing all the things. One thing I found this time that I did not do last time is that I found a NetGalley co-op, which it's $50 a month. I signed up for 2 months and I started that before my book was released. So it's been in NetGalley for the last 2 months and I have gotten quite a few really good reviews. I've had a very good experience with it. Okay. Wasn't something I did before, but I definitely will do it again. And there's always kind of, when you release your book, there's that moment where you're like, oh crap, people are going to read my book. Right. It's out there. I just told everyone that I named my child Symphony. How's this going to go? Yeah. Yeah. I didn't, by the way. And no judgment to anyone who does. I'm just saying. That's actually a pretty word. It actually kind of is. Yeah. anyone wants to steal it.
You, the wordsmith, don't you do the word of the day?
I did for a long time, yes. And I still
yeah.
get it every day. And some of them I pay attention to, and some of them I'm like, well, how is that the word of the day? But anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
I love words so much. Words, names.
Yeah. So
always.
I think those first reviews that you get, and if they're good reviews, you're like, oh, okay, I can relax now. People like it. So I'm not so compelled to read all of them anymore.
If you're a boy mom, listen up. I'm a boy mom times 3. And while not naming names, one of my boys was more into face products than I've ever been, while I constantly reminded another of them that the reason his skin was so itchy was that showers are important, as is soap. Man, do I wish Gygene had been around back then. For one thing, I don't know what the newest must-have products are. And maybe if they came in a box from someone else, it would have been more compelling than, Mom said I have to use this or I can't sit near her. While a few years too late for me, curated confidence for tween and teen boys has arrived. Gygene is a monthly subscription box developed just for teen and tween boys. Founded by fellow boy mom Cara Forney, who also happens to be the author of Boy Moms, Collective Tales of Mothers and Sons, each box contains 4 to 6 personal care items from top brands. And, bonus, all products are toxin-free, cruelty-free, and backed by, science. You can get 15% off your first box or entire subscription. So if you prepay for 6 months or a year, you can get 15% off the whole shebang. And you can combine it with the free shipping offer they have running right now. Just use code WriteTheDamnBook at checkout. I'm getting one for me just for surviving this craziness. Visit goodgygene.com. That's GOODGUYGIENE.com and enter code WriteTheDamnBook for 15% off and free shipping. The link is also in the show notes for easy reference later on. And now, back to the show. So your comment about NetGalley is interesting. I've heard different things.
Yeah,
and
me
recently
too.
Have you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very different things.
Yeah. So, and same with Goodreads, same with anything, which is why I like to get a lot of different perspectives. One of the most recent things that I heard was that NetGalley was maybe better for fiction authors than nonfiction. I don't know what you've heard in that realm.
I don't know. The co-op that I'm doing is a woman kind of puts a bunch of, books together, and she was listing, there were quite a few different genres that she listed. I think like twisty, thriller kinds of books do really well on NetGalley. And women's fiction wasn't even like one of the ones that she mentioned. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to try it. And the good thing about the difference between, so this is something I learned too, being with like a big 5 publisher who does NetGalley, you don't get to choose who's going to read your book and review your book on NetGalley. But with this co-op, I can approve. So I can take a look at the books that they have read and reviewed. I could take a look at their review ratings. And so if I think it's going to be a good fit with my book, I hit approve. And if I don't, I decline them. And so far it's been working really well for me.
That's quite smart. Because one of the other, let's call it a complaint that I heard was, I think this might work really well for traditionally published authors, but not so well. And when I say traditionally published, I do mean big 5 in this case, because you're traditionally published. There are plenty of, I'm going to put air quotes, but I don't really mean to, traditionally published authors who just aren't with the big 5. More and more, thank God. But But when this person mentioned it, they were referring to the big 5. Because they felt like the cost, and I don't know what package they were paying for. I suspect it was not this one, but the cost was so high that it felt, and the reviews were just like coming from
all over the place.
Yeah. And so I love that you can sort of vet your reviewer in the sense that, and of course, not in the sense that you're just looking for someone who leaves only 5-star reviews, but you can also look at people who only leave 1-star reviews.
Right.
Because we all know those people are out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
what can I review bomb this morning? It's Monday at 7
Yeah.
a.m. What shall I review bomb today? Like,
Right. Exactly.
That's
And authors tank with that. You know, there are some authors who it takes them a long time to recover from, you know, a handful of 1 or 2 star reviews. So it's important that you get the right people who are being your ARC readers.
Well, and it's also volume too, because if you only have 20 reviews and 2 of them are 1 star or 2, it's going to bring the ranking way down.
Right.
Now, with NetGalley, where do those reviews show up? Is it just NetGalley or
no? Well, they show up on NetGalley, but I have had some of so I'll get an email every time somebody leaves a review on NetGalley, but then they have gone on and published them on Goodreads. Some of them have published on Amazon. Some of them put, like posts on their Instagram with their review.
Sure.
So they're publishing to their own audience, which is really nice. I appreciate that, by the way.
These are individuals who the benefit for them is they get a book free.
Yeah.
A book that they really are going to enjoy. And then the exchange is they're willing to say, man, I loved this. And they're author supporters. Can you do it post publication or do you have to do it? Okay.
You can even with the co-op, you can even switch books.
Really?
So like I can sign on for another 2 months and put my All That Is Sacred in there.
That's great for people with a backlist.
Yeah.
Where maybe the first or second or even third book just didn't, we often hear about the author who they look like a breakout, but it's actually their 7th novel or their 7th book.
Yeah.
And so then they can kind of maybe give new life into a backlist title.
Yeah. I just saw some kind of a post with a list of, very famous A-list authors and it listed how many books they published before they made it big with a book. And then their backlist gets very popular. There's a lot of people out there reading Kristen Hanna books that she published a long time ago.
Yes. You just got to keep going.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
as on the author side, if you so choose. So there was not a lot of time in the grand scheme of things, between the publication of All That Is Sacred and of Lies and Honey. Were you writing, right? Like, had you written, what was your...
So I started writing All That Is Sacred 10 years ago. It took me a long time. I queried it for on and off for like 3 years. And so in that 3 years, I wrote Of Lies and Honey as part of a NaNoWriMo project. So by the time I got my contract, I had written, I think, my first full draft of Lies and Honey. And then I worked with some critique partners, and by the time All That Is Sacred came out, Of Lies and Honey was done. So that's when I sent it to my publisher, and then they turned this around pretty quickly.
Yeah. The publishing part is really, it depends on where you are in the queue, which is why traditional can take so long. But the process itself is pretty straightforward and simple. Again, not always easy, but simple. What felt different for you, if anything, in the writing of each of them? Because Of Lies and Honey I feel like it's a more complex storyline. Do you feel that way?
Yes, in the sense that I felt like Of Lies and Honey, I needed to puzzle a lot more because there are 3 points of view and there's like a reveal at some point. So I was like dropping little nuggets and making sure that they were in the right place throughout. In terms of my All That Is Sacred, there's one narrator, but there are 5 characters. So for that one, and she doesn't live on Earth. She's, in the afterlife in All That Is Sacred. So that was tricky. The narrative was tricky. But for Of Lies and Honey, it was the plot that was challenging. So different challenges for each book. But I love to take on a challenge. I love, playing with language. Writing in multiple points of view is something that I always wanted to do. In fact, All That Is Sacred started out in many points of view, and then it just wasn't working. So I had to change it to 1 point of view. This one made better sense to be in 3 points of view. So I'm glad that I did that. And I don't know what I'll do next. I'm going to try something a little bit different.
That's what I was going to ask you. Like, what
Yeah.
are you thinking next? Back cover copy for Of Lies and Honey.
Mhm.
So good.
Oh, thank you.
So good. I mean, I actually was at paragraph 3 when you were introducing the third character and my phone rang and I was not pleased. It's like, what am I? It was actually an important call. So I was like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What's your process for creating that, whether you want to call it the hook or the elevator pitch or the summary or the back cover copy, whatever term you use, does that come last or are you figuring that out as you're writing it, like with the big reveal and things like that, which I don't know what that is, but I'm very intrigued. What's your process?
I call it a book jacket summary. That's last for me. And it's honestly the hardest thing to write.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's the hardest thing to write.
I know.
I have gone through so many drafts of my back cover copy for both of my books. I've run it by people. And I have probably revised that just as much, if not more, than my book.
I think it's so funny that we can write, it's not easy to write 70 to 100,000 words at all.
Right.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But then we think, I only need, 700 words. I'm making that up. I don't know, but it's a low note for the jacket copy, back cover copy, Amazon description, however you want to say.
Yeah, it's actually like 250 words.
Is it? Okay, so it's even fewer than I said.
Yes, 250 words.
It's crazy how challenging that is.
Well, you know what it is? You spend, for me, years with my characters and with my story, and it's so hard for me to distance myself to figure out, okay, first of all, some things are going through my head. I have to aptly describe the story. I have to name the characters. I have to talk about, what the conflict is, because that's what's going to draw readers in. I don't want to give anything away. And I also have to distance myself. So I'm kind of writing it as a reader would read it.
That's what I think is so challenging because when I have to imagine I've not written back cover copy yet for my own work of fiction. But when having read, manuscripts and edited fiction manuscripts, in detail what's going on. And you just want to say to somebody, it's amazing, just read it.
Yeah.
You're going to love this character. It's amazing, just read it.
Yeah.
But to have to summarize it into 250 approximately words to say, to actually do what you did with this one, where I was like, okay. All That Is Sacred was loosely based on real life. Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Was Of Lies and Honey in any way, or was it?
I am a firm believer that no author can write a piece of fiction without a part of themselves in it. Right. So, definitely there are parts of myself in it. There are parts of things that I've seen, but this story came about based on an article that I read about a debutante who was forced to give her child away because of the stain it would leave on her very wealthy family. And so she gave the child away. And in the article, she found the child years later.
Okay.
So that story kind of stuck with me, that idea of being forced to give a child away. So I decided when I sat down to write a story about motherhood and all the different kinds of choices that mothers have. I mean, I've had so many people reach out to me and say, this is my story. And I kind of feel like it's every woman's story because there are so many different facets of motherhood in this story, which was what I was trying to achieve.
I think that's one of the most beautiful things about fiction that sometimes we overlook. Nonfiction or memoir, we know is, about someone's experience specifically. Right. But we forget that in reading fiction, like the identification can still so very much be there. Yeah. And I sometimes wonder, I've talked to people who are writing from the perspective of a serial killer or something, and they're like, oh God, like, do I need to seek assistance? Yeah. Like people will say, you're not your characters. Yeah. And I think that's just an interesting conversation. I don't know. I feel the same as you, that we draw in some way, shape, or form, either from who we are or who we want to be or who we wished we had, things we wished we had done, or people we've met along the way become facets of peripheral characters. But what happens when you have a little bit of
evil?
Evil. Good word. Good word. I wanted to say insanity, and I thought that's probably not politically correct. But like what, when you have just, again, a serial killer or just something. I'm watching Stranger Things, strangely enough, for the first time. I got roped into it by
that's a great
number
show.
one. It's so great. And I'm thinking, how did it's great writing, it's great everything. And I'm like, how did they come up with, I get fascinated by that.
And that's one of the things I love about writing, though, is that, like just as much as I try things with style, like I was talking about before with the points of view, it's neat. I watch those murder documentaries all the time. And I'm always thinking, like, what is going on in this person's head? Yeah. And so for me as a writer, like, I sometimes will write characters to understand what different people are thinking, even though they're not me, So I think that's what writers tap into, is that idea of, let me just kind of put this hat on and see what it's like inside this person.
I want to introduce you to my friend, Donna Norman-Carbone, who's a PhD. She's a clinical psychologist she's a professor at Stanford. And she has a new podcast called The Characterist, and it's a therapist for characters. You come on like as you come to therapy onto the podcast as one of your characters or as a peripheral character to do exactly what you just said. Try to figure out. So I went on her podcast last week, and I really was concerned by the end of it because I thought, I don't know where my main character ends and Elizabeth begins. Like this, but she asks some incredibly thought-provoking questions. Like, what is your/her/his experience/theirs with this particular thing? And I can see that, like, I don't know why I thought this, and I don't know what this says about me, but when you said you watch like the murder shows or whatever, I remember watching some documentary about a person who was in love with a roller coaster. Like romantically in love with a roller coaster. Now, again, I don't know why I thought this, but I was like, if you put yourself you try to put yourself into their head, what would you come up with? I want to take a super quick break to ask you, have you ever wondered where authors get great professional mock-ups of their books without spending hours on Photoshop or hiring a designer? In less than 10 seconds, Mockup Shots puts your book into over 1,200 amazing settings. And now, for a limited time, they are including their exclusive video mockup system. Mockup Shots is what I've used for years to create 3D mockups of my own book covers and my author's book covers, as well as professional attention-grabbing images that are great for social media. No technical know-how required. Mockup Shots usually costs over $200, but I have a special offer for you. It's faster, has more features, more images, and is getting better every day. They're celebrating this new and improved Mockup Shots by offering a 60% discount on lifetime access with lifetime updates. It's a great way to get an unheard of price on a product that will get eyes on your book, increased sales, and that you will end up using all the time. You can get this limited time offer with the link in the show notes. And now back to regularly scheduled programming.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that part of the challenge. I really do.
What do you do? I got this question yesterday, and I really want to ask like everyone this now, because I don't think, I know there's not one right answer, and there's not one answer. There's a quadrillion. What do you do if/when, I'm assuming it's when, you're like, I'm stuck?
Yeah.
Like, can you just I don't want to put words in your mouth. So can you describe what that feeling is to you? And then like, how do you talk about that in your inner monologue? And then what the hell do you do?
You mean when I'm stuck writing? Like Correct. I come to a spot and I have no idea what to write next. that rarely happens to me.
Oh God.
And I will
I
tell
liked
you
you
why.
so much, Donna. Like
I have a strategy, Elizabeth, and
Okay.
I want you to try it. I
Okay.
never end a scene that I'm writing at the end of the scene. I always stop writing in the middle of a scene that I know exactly where it's going. So when I sit down, I get right back into that scene, get right back into that headspace, and then I just keep moving. Because I feel like when you stop,
Yeah.
that's where the gap comes in. That's where the writer's block comes in. But when I have had writer's block, and even when I don't, like when I start writing, I get obsessive about it. Like I could write 8 hours a day every day.
I remember you saying that the last time we
Yeah, and
spoke.
when I'm not writing, I'm thinking about it. I'm dreaming about it. I'm jotting down notes. Um, so I kind of think that's what that's what I do. I kind of have to walk away from it for a little while and just let it churn in my head.
I'm just thinking this through because I'm thinking about it from a DIY. I do a lot of DIY projects in my house. And the minute I finish one concretely and completely, no pun intended with concrete, it's like, what do I do? Which one do I do next? And sometimes instead of just moving to the next one, I will, because I'm trying to finish one before I start another. Otherwise I have 37, which has happened. But if I'm in the middle of a project, I have no problem going back and picking it up.
You're in the zone.
Do you think that's just a level of discipline though, to say I'm walking away now?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do. I think it takes practice to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Do you ever walk away because you don't know what happens next in the scene itself?
Sometimes, but more often than not, I do know what's happening. And I do that on purpose so I could kind of get back in that zone quicker.
Okay.
Than if I had ended on a scene that I had no idea where I was going next.
I'm going to link our first episode in the show notes so people can listen to that too. I think I asked you this question though, but I'm going to ask you again. Are you a plotter, a pantser, a plantser? Like, do you know where the story is going?
Yeah, I always know the end.
You do. Okay.
I don't know how I know the beginning and I know the end. I usually know the title. Or at least I think I do. This one has changed a few times, but yeah, I am both. I will sit down and plot, and then I will just kind of go with it. And I'll try to like fill in my outline as I'm writing, just to kind of keep clear on, I don't know, different characteristics that I make up in the middle of the story, just to keep constant. That continuity part is the part that gets me all the time. Like going through the draft to just, make sure that she's always had blonde hair throughout the whole, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't want that moment where someone's like, wait, I thought she had brown hair.
I thought you said she was 5'1", but now you're saying she's towering over her father. At what point do you do that? Do you wait till the end, or are you kind
of? That's usually like the last round. Okay. I'm somebody who writes edits.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
How do you prevent yourself from edit, and just getting...
Well, the first draft I just write through. It's a mess.
Oh.
That one I force myself not to edit, but it's really hard. Yeah. I'm an English teacher. I edit in my brain constantly. I know. So, I really force myself not to do it the whole first draft, but then after that, I'm constantly reading, editing.
This is my goal.
I read the first chapter a zillion times.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is my goal, is to, I don't know if it's a worthy goal, but to be able to just sit down and get through, just get it out, just come on. And that's not happening.
You have that editing brain too.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's, I got to remember which hat I'm wearing, so to speak.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I also think that it's part of we could use the term perfectionist. I don't love that, but in where I don't want to waste time. So I don't want to feel like I'm spending time writing something that I'm going in the wrong direction.
Right.
It just feels too like loosey-goosey if I'm just you know. So I can only assume assumption is bad, but that you're working on another one now.
Yeah, I'm in the editing stages of a next one.
Okay.
It's about a woman who is in a domestic abuse situation and flees that situation to create a new life. But she's kind of running away from something she can't really run away from until she deals with it. And so she deals with it by seeing a therapist who takes her back to a past life.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So question, because one thing I hear that's like a fear of many people is they want to write from a perspective such as domestic violence or a BIPOC, you know, or LGBTQ, and but they're not part of that community, and so they fear, like, if I write about it or from this perspective. I'm just curious how you work that through.
So, most of the book is not about the domestic abuse. It's about starting over and healing. I do plan on, once I get, you know, like a good draft together, I'm going to have some sensitivity readers read it. I'm going to reach out to some people through the WFWA probably. I definitely want to treat this, you know, with, you know, the sensitivity that it needs. I also am going to reach out with this one, and I haven't done this with my other two, just to a lawyer, because it deals with custody, and also somebody who does past life regressions.
Yes.
So
are you reaching out to the lawyer just for factual information?
Just to make sure that everything that I have in there checks out.
Yes.
You know,
like
I want to
make
actually
sure that
it's authentic. Yeah.
Yes. Bingo.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I've done a lot of research. So, you know, I think I'm pretty good, but I want to make sure before I
put it out there. Yeah. So for the launch, what do you have coming up over the next couple weeks? Do you feel?
Yeah, I'm actually really busy. Today I'm doing a Facebook takeover with the Bookish Road Trip Book Club.
Oh, fun.
For which I am a tour guide. So, so I'm excited about that. We're going to do a live at 7:00 tonight. And then I have events planned, I think, every single weekend in May and June. Wow. I'm going to a lot of festivals, which I had very good luck with my first book. And I have 2, you know, book signings at a local indie bookstore and a boutique in town that sells my books very nicely. So I have a lot planned. I'm excited.
Do you set those things up for yourself? Does your publisher do it for you?
No, my publisher doesn't do any of that. My publisher will set up sales and such. Put us on Kindle Unlimited and run sales. I'm actually, All That Is Sacred is going to be featured on sale for Mother's Day.
Oh, great.
So, so I'm excited about that. The weird thing about this launch is because my last book came out so close to this one, I'm not really sure, like, what to promote, how to promote it. Like, when I go to places, I'm like, do you want me to bring both books? Do you want me to bring just the new one? So that's interesting, because they're very close together. Yeah.
Because I have to mention Neely Alexander in every freaking podcast now.
She's awesome. I did a podcast with her last year, and she's fantastic. Yeah,
she really is. And we're really friends in real life. So if anyone listening thinks I'm truly a stalker, like I think if she's having a good day, she'll confirm that I'm not. But her second book just came out, in a Not So Perfect World, and she's doing the same. It's like, she hasn't said that to me, but I've just been watching what she's doing. So we did a panel event together a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago now, at an indie bookstore on the east side of Phoenix, and she took both.
Yeah.
And you know, people wanted both. I mean, it's like, so it's interesting to kind of navigate, to your point, what do I do? How does this work? And it's just fun to hear what other people are doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so you just make those calls and set up these events.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of, I think I was a little late to that game with my first book just because I didn't know what to do.
Right.
One day I just Googled festivals in New England, and so I scheduled a couple of them with my first book, but I scheduled many more with this one just because they were so successful. So it was nice getting out and meeting people and chatting about the book.
Did you feel more confident and comfortable reaching out to all the different places with this
time
book?
It's funny because I think I didn't realize how anxious I was the first time until I'm comparing it with how much calmer I am this time.
Yeah I love that. Last question, which is always the same. What are you reading right now?
Oh, I am reading a wonderful book. Actually, I'm doing an arc for one of my fellow authors in Adept Publishing. It's called Soul Dancing, and it's by Gail Priest, and it's coming out pretty soon. You almost have to suspend your judgment because it's about a soul moving from one body to another. It is fascinating, and I am obsessed. So I can't wait to finish it.
Fiction, I assume.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, I mean, it could be memoir, depending upon one's experience. Well, thank you so much for coming back. Can I have you come back for the third? Because that one sounds really exciting.
Thank you so much for having
this one. Yeah, and happy launch day.
Thanks. I love this podcast. It's been such a pleasure to be back again and chatting with you.
I love chatting with you. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, this is your friendly reminder to follow or subscribe, leave a quick review, and share it with someone you know has a great story or message, but isn't sure what to do next. Also, remember to check out publishaprofitablebook.com for book writing resources and tips, and to see all the ways we can work together to get your book out into the world. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk with you again soon.